Addi click sets are the Mercedes-Benz of interchangeable needles. They are high quality, German engineering, guaranteed for life. But there are six different sets. What's the difference? How do you choose? Well, that, my friend, is what we are going to be talking about tonight. I am Ellen Lewis from Crazy for You. And if you are new to my channel, I am all about things that are fun to knit and fabulous to wear. And if that sounds like fun for you, go ahead and click subscribe so that you can be notified every time I upload a new video or go live. Apparently, there's something really fun that happens when you click subscribe. So go ahead and try it now and see what happens. Should be lots of fun. Not a big deal, but a lot of fun. Anyway, so part of fun to knit for me means the process should be pleasant, which means you should have the right tools for the right job because that makes a huge difference. I am a huge fan of interchangeable needles generally and of the Addi Click line specifically. And no, Addi did not pay me to say that, nor did their US distributor, Skacel, pay me to say that. It's the truth. I've been knitting with Addi needles, not right when I opened the shop, but pretty soon after, probably around 2005, I started with the Addi needles. And I just fell in love. And then when they came out with the first click set, I thought that was absolutely amazing. So I'm super happy to share with you their expanded line and all of the ways that they have kind of responded to the market and the demands of customers to make precision tools that are just right for every need and every kind of yarn. So we'll look at that. But hey Jal, hi Gwen, hey Lee, hey Nancy, nice to see you guys. Hey Terry, I'm glad you're here. So first of all, like I said, there are six different sets. So let's talk first about how they are the same. So all of the Addi needles have the same join. So regardless of the size of the tip, regardless of the cable, you can interchange all of them. Every tip fits every cable across all six lines. So if you have, like I do, an Addi Turbo original set, and you have a unicorn set or a bamboo set, those cables are going to work together. So you never have to worry about that, which is something that I really appreciate. The other thing is that they all come in one of these cute little, I don't know, clutch kind of pouches. They're almost like a little evening bag, right? Very fun. I love the way they're put up. I think they are beautiful. You see? So, they have all of the needles and they're all held in there together with this, the connector here, and the cables are in the back, safely stowed in the back of your pouch. So that is some of the ways that they are all the same. They all come with 3 cables. They all come with a connector. So you can, get all different kinds of lengths. And as I said, you can get more additional cables, you can get additional tips, and they're all going to fit what you already have. So you don't have to worry about adapters or do I have the right cable for this tip or anything like that. So that's part of it. I got the first Addi Click set when they first came out, and I remember it was somewhere between 2008 and 2010 because I still had the shop in La Plata, and I remember that the first set came in this sort of velveteen box, and it was like I don't know, it was very elegant looking, but it wasn't all that practical. So it was all laid out in this, like I say, black velveteen plastic box. And it did look kind of like jewelry. It was very elegant, but they quickly moved to this clutch pouch format, and I think that's been much better, and they've done that ever since. So let's start by talking about the original Addi set, because I think it is probably the most different of all of them. So any of you who have worked with Addis are familiar with the Addi Turbo. Um, it it has it was originally a nickel plate, but a lot of people had allergies to nickel. So maybe 10 years ago, they moved to white bronze over brass. But what made them special was they had this slick finish. And that's why they were called turbos, because you could knit so much faster. The yarn didn't drag. It was extremely smooth and slick. Yeah. Um, what people think of with the Addi turbos, the original ones now, they call it a blunt tip. It's really not a blunt tip, but it's not as sharp as some. And we'll talk about that later. But but the original Addi set, and still to this day, if you buy the original set here, the turbo set, you get needles that go from US 4 all the way up to US 15. And that is not true of the other sets. So this original, I call it the OG Addi, has 10 tips, right? Which I really like because I sometimes do knit things on a 15. I knit big row and big wool on a 15, and it's nice to have that 13 and 15 in there. So why might you want the Addi Turbo set? One, it has 2 extra needles in it. So that's kind of nice. And if you're thinking about, price per tip, then that makes it a little less expensive. I know a lot of people really, really like a sharp tip, and a lot of times I really like a sharp tip as well. But there are definitely times that we want a not sharp tip. So if you're working with a yarn that's very lofty, or some of these bulkier yarns, or a yarn that's kind of loosely spun, or a boucle, that ball tip, that sort of rounded Addi tip, is much easier to use. You might think, oh, no, I think I need a sharp tip. But really, what you want is a tip that's not going to go through the fiber, that a tip that's not going to catch on in the fabric, but is going to go between. So I find that sometimes when I'm using, like I said, a bulky yarn or a boucle, I want something that has a little bit more of a rounded tip. So love it or hate it, there it is. That's the original Addi, right? And just so you know, I have in the description of this video a link where you can download the matrix that I put together, showing all of the Addi sets and the different information about them, how they are the same and how they are different. Okay? So, and if you have questions, go ahead and post it in the chat and let me know. I'll be happy to answer any of those questions for you. Okay, so let's look at the Addi Rocket. So this was sort of an interim. Well, okay, so after the Addi Turbos, they introduced an Addi lace, which was I think it was brass, and it had a red cable on it, and it had a very sharp tip, and the shaft had a little bit of drag on it. And that was a response to the desire for people who were making lace with very fine yarn, and that they found that the Addi shafts on the turbos were too slippery. So they wanted something that was pointier and less slippy. So they came out for a period of time with these Addi lace. After a bit, people said, no, we like the pointy tip, but we don't like the drag. So enter Addi Rockets. And Addi Rockets are the ones in this hot pink case. And they go from US 4 to US 11, okay? And yes, you can get the tips in the larger sizes, but what comes in the set is this. And they have the smoothness of the turbo, but a pointier tip. So how much pointier? Well, let me show you. I have another, I have them right here. So I have a set of the needles right here that I can share with you and so you can see. And yes, Lee, I have used the Addi Square. I own the Addi Square, and we will talk about that. So let me show this. Okay, so this is a close-up of the Rocket and the original Addi. The Rocket is here on the right, and the original Addi is on the left. It's hard to get a good look at it because of the so you can see the difference in that. Usually you can see. Come on now. Yeah, in that tip. Do you see how the every time I move it, it's not happy? Anyway, you can see that the rocket on the right-hand side is more pointy, um, and you can feel it. You know, you can feel it with your fingers. Um, yeah, so you can definitely feel it with your fingers. This is still, much pointier than a lot of needles that are out there. Certainly a lot of bamboos that I've seen or other wood needles. But it's just that the rocket is much, much pointier. So, yeah, very lovely. Okay. And the next one that they came out with, and this is a sort of a rough order, um, was the Addi olive wood. And these are gorgeous. So I think they might have come out at the same time with the bamboo. They were called Natura. Now they're called Addi Bamboo, with the bamboo and the olive wood. And this olive wood is a truly gorgeous, gorgeous set. It is made of the wood from the olive tree, which is definitely a luxury wood. Um, it's prized for a couple things. One, it's extremely hard and resilient and very, very smooth. And it's easy to work. So they can make a very, very sharp tip on it, even though it's wood and not metal. So they were looking for something that was going to give people who liked the feel of wood in their hands um, a nice experience with that same kind of tip. So let me show you those here in comparison with the Rockets and the Rocket and the regular Addies. So you can see here that the olive has the same boy, that camera is really giving me a ration, isn't it? Olive is not quite as pointy as the Rocket, but is pointier or at least as pointy as the Turbo. Can you see that? That this is as pointy, almost as pointy as this, and this is the Turbo. So if you like a wood needle and you like a pointy tip, this olive is a beautiful option. It is, as I say, it's prized for its this beautiful graining. This is a wood that is used for furniture and music boxes and um, honestly rosaries because it comes from that area. Isn't it pretty? I think it's just lovely. Yeah, so those are pretty. And the other thing I want to point out is that the olive wood, they have gold fittings. They're not actually gold, they're just gold colored. I think they must be brass. And that gold fitting is both on the end of the needle and on the cables. Although they have a different material, they still are interchangeable with all of the others. So this is a really, really nice set. I really love this. It's very, very smooth and it has been polished and it's not absorbent. They say it has a really nice smell. I haven't been able to kind of discern a smell in the olive wood, but I can tell you that it is warm in the hands and it's very silky to use and you don't get any drag. So anybody who kind of prefers a wood needle might really enjoy that. And I don't think I got any of that bamboo out. So let me get those tips out real quick. So the bamboo set is here. So this is the bamboo, and you can see that the bamboo is not as pointy. Come on. I'm going to try this. Let me try this up here. Can you see that the bamboo is not quite as pointy as the olive wood, and the taper is not quite as long? So if the olive wood is there on the darker one and the bamboo is the lighter one, this taper between the full circumference of the shaft and the tip is not quite as long on the bamboo. Let me see if I can get this close up for you. Yeah. Can you see that? The taper of the bamboo starts up here, and on the olive wood, it starts much lower. So you have a longer taper, which enhances the pointiness of the yarn, of the needle with your yarn. Do you see what I'm saying? So when you have that longer taper, it just makes it easier to get in there. Some of the things that we like best about pointy needles is that they tend to have a longer taper. So anyway, so that is the difference between the olive wood and the bamboo. Bamboo, of course, is very nice. Everybody likes it. And I would say that the Addi has a very high quality of bamboo, but bamboo can't hold a candle to olive wood. You know, they're just not the same animal. They're not even in the same league. They're both decent. I mean, the bamboo is decent. It's certainly nice, but it's not of the same caliber as the olive wood, which is very lovely. Okay, so okay, question here. They all swivel? No, none of the Addis swivel. Okay, I always say that you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. None of the Addi cables swivel. They are all set in there, and that is, I think, by design. It is harder to get a smooth join when you have to leave room for the swivel. So that's something that has come up time and time again with various needle sets that do and don't have swivel. The people who love the swivel are so committed to the swivel that they won't buy anything else. Other people who've tried the swivel and hate it would never knit with a swivel needle. So it really depends on your preference, but none of the Addi cables are swivel. So think about how a swivel works. So when you have a swivel cable, you've got to have a little tiny bit of space between the cable and the connection to the needle so that it can rotate. If there weren't any space, it wouldn't be able to rotate. So for people who knit tightly, that swivel is a place where the yarn tends to get caught. Okay. Again, some people love it, some people hate it. If, that's just something you are going to have to try out and see how you feel about it. So Julie has a comment here. I would love those, adding to my Christmas list. Yes, you would love these. They're just beautiful. They really are kind of a work of art. Do the cords curl up? So, I mean, I think a nylon cord, they all have this nylon cord. I don't think they kink, you want them to be able to sort of fold up like that, which is something I like so that I can plop those in my work. But I have never found them to be, to have such memory that they got in my way. For anybody who has a brand new set and finds that the cables have been curled up for so long that it is a problem. If you just dip them in a little hot water, they'll relax, and I don't think you'll have a problem with them at all. That being said, they are not the same cables as you're going to find on the ChowGoo red lace. Okay, those cables have no memory at all because they're multiple strands of very fine stainless steel coated in a nylon sheath, so they really can't kink. So it's a very different feel. We had our needle expo last Sunday, and I had a lady in who'd never really worked with circular needles. She was um, always used straight needles and kind of put them under her arm when she was knitting. And when she was working, I had her try all of the needles. And when she was working with the needles that had that no memory, that they were the ChowGoos, she was working with them. She said she felt like they were sort of pulling this way and that. It might have been because the cable was, made a 24-inch, and it might not have been that way if she'd had a longer cable. But that was something that she noticed. Again, all of this stuff is so personal. What you like in a needle and what you makes you feel like the needle is absolutely amazing, is very unique to the way you knit and the kinds of things you knit and what your preferences are in a needle. So let us move on to the rocket squares, which I know you're not allowed to have a favorite and you're not supposed to have a favorite, but I do. Let's see, I have a question here. Do the cables curl up? I used to love the gold cables. Yeah, those were the original cables, weren't they, Julie? When they had the gold cables, they were very pretty. Um, right. Okay. So these are the rocket squares. They have a pointy tip, and they have this textured feel. Now, when you think square needles, you're typically thinking of some of those square needles that you might have had in the past that had kind of sharp corners on them. These are rounded square needles, so they are not, they don't hurt when you hold them. I do find them to be more comfortable to hold and require less energy. And I tend to recommend them for all levels of knitters because those little bumps on there um, also help the stitches to not slide off. I mean, they're ready to go when you want, but if a beginner has a problem with the stitches sort of falling off before they're ready, that's something that keeps that from happening. So let's look at the rocket square tip compared to the well, it's exactly the same tip as the rockets. The rocket square is exactly the same tip. The only difference between it and the rockets is that it has this texture. And if you're interested in the rocket squares, I have a whole video review on just the rocket squares and why they work the way they do. So I will recommend that, and I'll put a link in the description. Um, this is this the rocket squares. They are the ones that I tend to use most often, just cause. And this is the newest introduction. This is the unicorn. So you can see that this it's twisted like a unicorn horn. Let me see if I can get this to. Okay, it has a nice long tip. It basically has the same tip as the rocket square, right? Same length of taper, same pointiness of tip. And that was really smart of Addi, because when the unicorns first came out, they had the standard turbo tip. And I think there really is a trend toward wanting that pointier tip. So when they did the unicorns in an interchangeable, they did them with the pointy tip. And I just have to show you if you haven't seen it yet. I also did a podcast just on the Addi unicorns, but they're very fun. Look at this. Look at this case. Isn't that beautiful? Sort of, I mean, it's very playful. This is this is a set that you probably want if you know, already have a lot or you don't have the rocket squares. It's very fun. Another difference between the unicorns and the others is that they have this pink cable. They're the only needle set in the line that has a pink cable. And the pink cable, I'm going to say the pink cable does not have, oh, but it does. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to change that that file. The pink cable is an SOS cable, which means that it has the lifeline hole in it so that you can thread a lifeline through as you're knitting. So let's see. Is the cord the, let's see, tell me again, Gwen. Let's see, interchangeable unicorns. I would love those. Yes, they are so fun. They are just beautiful. And I think the feel of them in your hands is rather like the rocket squared. You know, it has a little more texture, but it is still extremely smooth. It still has that white bronze plated over, you know, over brass and a very lovely tip. So really nice to use. Is the cord the same? So the cord in the unicorns is, it's not exactly the same because you see it's pink, and I don't know enough about the properties of nylon to know how it's different. I just know that it is different. All of the sets then have that SOS cable, which allows you to open it up and put a lifeline in as you are going along. So, any thoughts, any questions, let me know. Um, I'm happy to answer your questions. You can look on the website for the, you know, for the price points. I'm not going to say that here because other people might be selling them at different prices, but I will remind you that if you buy an Addi needle or an Addi set from an authorized US Addi retailer, they are guaranteed for life. And I always tell my customers this: if something goes wrong with your set, whether it's the tip or the cable or whatever, you bring it back to me, I will make it right. Um, we'll get you a replacement for whatever. That is not true if you buy it from wherever, you know, and your local yarn stores that you can go in and you can see that they're buying them from Skicel, which is the only company in the United States that is authorized to sell Addi needles in the United States. Everything else could be a knockoff. So beware of that, you know. All right, let's see. Barbara, the unicorns are delight. Oh, that's so nice to know, Barbara. Barbara says that the Addy unicorns are a delight to knit with and have helped with my hand fatigue. I'm so glad to know that. I know that the squares do. And as I say in the review for the square, because they're square, they don't roll as easily. So it takes less force to hold them in place. I know it's a very small amount of force that you would be exerting to hold the needles in place, but as we know, force over time increases, and you know, it just keeps your hands from getting quite as tired quite as quickly. So, yes, absolutely. So, absolutely, if this is something that interests you or if you have a specific question about it, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or to put a comment on the video here. Like I said, I answer everything. And go ahead and download that matrix so that you have it right there and you can see the sharpness and the length of the taper. Oh, one other thing I wanted to tell you is that the rockets and the rocket squares are the only ones that come in a short version, right? So the the regular Addies are all 5-inch shafts. If you like to knit hats or for some reason you just prefer a shorter shaft because of the way you like to knit, only the Addi Rockets and the Addi Rocket squares come in that shorter length. Okay. So I hope that this is helpful. I hope that you download the matrix and find that to be useful. And Please let me know if I can answer any questions for you. Just go ahead and put a question in the comment and let me know. All right. So thanks so much for being here, and I will see you next time. And have a very happy holiday.